Let's take a look at some of the most important items in the menus of Visual Studio Code. Of course, the first one we have is Code, and that's where you find about Visual Studio Code. I'm going to click on that so you can see that I'm using version 1.24.0. Your version may be different, and that will explain some minor discrepancies as we go along. Also under Code, we can check for updates. We can set preferences, but we're going to look at preferences later in this course. Let's go over to File. Here's where we can create a new file with Command N. A new window actually opens up a completely separate window of Visual Studio Code. And here you can have another view on your files or on a completely different set of files. That's not the common way to do it, however. The common way to do that is by splitting your screen, and we're going to take a look at that in just a moment. We can open up a workspace, open up recent files, add a folder to our workspace, and so forth. One of the most important items under File is autosave. I have that checked, which means that as I go along, Visual Studio Code is going to save my changes. That's very important to me, and I will show you when we get to setting the options how you can set how often it saves automatically. Under Edit, we have a lot of the things that you would expect: cut, copy, paste, find and replace, and so forth. The difference between find and find in files is that find will look in the open current file, whereas find in files will look at all the files in the directory. And this is a very important point. Visual Studio Code works with directories and files rather than with projects. Toggle line comment and toggle block comment are very helpful, and the shortcuts are right here. So I can go over to a line and click and say command / and that will comment it out. And I can hit the same command and that will bring it back and uncomment it. Let's go back up to Edit. There are a couple other useful things, including Emmet, which is a programming assistant for working with web programming. Under Selection, here's where you can manage selected items, selected lines of code. You can copy those lines or move them up and down. You can add your cursors, and Visual Studio Code supports multiple cursors. We'll be looking at that in a little while. Under View, we've got quite a number of things. The most important thing we have is Command Palette. If you don't memorize any other shortcut, as I've said, this is the one to memorize: Shift-Command-P. The Command Palette allows you to do virtually anything that you can do in Visual Studio Code, you can do through the Command Palette. There are a number of other views that you can open from within this menu. One that is very useful is Split Editor. That's Command /, and what that does is give you two views on the same file, although you are also free here to open up another file. So if I go to Explorer and I click in this window and I say I want to open up Hello World TS, that's now open in this window. I can do Command / again and have three windows. And let's put a different file in here. Let's put interfaces.ts. Now, one very powerful thing that you can do, we have these three equal-sized windows. First of all, I can close my Explorer to make a little bit more room, and that'll toggle back and forth. The other thing that I can do is I can grab the splitter and move it over if I want to look at that third window, and notice it makes the other two windows collapse. If I grab the splitter to the first window, now the first window is going to expand and the second window will collapse. And similarly, if I take the third window, that will expand and the other two will collapse. So you can move back and forth between them very, very comfortably. View also allows you to toggle your word wrap and to zoom in and out, and you can see the shortcuts for that are Command = and Command-, and that lets you focus in on one area of your code, such as this. We can zoom in and we can zoom back out. That's also often very useful for presentations. The Go menu has what you would expect on a normal Go menu. However, it also allows you to switch your editors, and by memorizing the shortcuts, you can flip very quickly between the various editors. And you can also go to a file, go to a symbol in a file, go to the definition, go to implementation will take you to the implementation of any defined class or object, and go to line, as you would expect, will take you to a line number. Under debug, we have all of the commands that we want when debugging a program. Under tasks, we have the ability to start and run and terminate tasks within Visual Studio Code directly. And then under window, we can switch windows and we can zoom in or minimize windows. And finally, under help, here's where you can get to the documentation, get your reference for your keyboard shortcuts, and take care of your license and so forth.